Well, welcome back, and also welcome to my new studio space. I had been filming from my apartment, and there was a lot of construction out back, and it was just so annoying, and I didn't have the proper setup. Literally, my desk in my apartment is a plank of wood that I screwed into the windowsill. It is very janky. I will spare you what it looks like. You can just take my word for it in that it was a very DIY project from someone who does not like to DIY.
Wild.
With that being said, we are in my new studio space, and I'm really excited to be recording from here. And yeah, just a little bit of a clean slate for us to launch into this series. So without further ado, we're gonna go into phase 1 research of how to build your brand. And we're just going to take it from the top. So as you guys know, there are 5 different phases of building your brand out, and phase 1 is all about research. So we are going to hit each one of these tasks. Task number 1 is outlining the opportunity, including what are our personal pain points, like what type of problems do we experience in our daily lives that we would like to solve, and also who else is experiencing this pain point. From there, we're going to be able to assess what brands are currently trying to solve that problem and where are they falling short. And that falling shortedness is our white space opportunity. This is where we really get to solve the problem that we and people around us that we've identified are experiencing and can use a better solution for. So let's go ahead and start with our opportunity outline. My dad always said, we are the quality of the questions that we ask ourselves, so we're gonna ask good ones. And as I mentioned before, all of our examples are going to be about rec center and orange. So that just helps kind of apply the thinking behind the questions in solving them or providing some sort of an answer. Before we go into that, let's look at these questions. What is my main pain point? Your pain point is basically like the instinct that you have to start this brand. You know, if you don't like the leather goods that are on the market for your motorcycling adventures, that's your pain point. If you're trying to meet 25-year-old to 35-year-old creatives who want to exercise as a means of socializing, there's your pain point, and that was mine. Once we identify what that pain point is, we got to start asking ourselves, okay, that's obviously my pain point. I wonder how many other people feel that pain point as well. And so once we start to realize, okay, what is the greater context of that pain point, it'll allow us to start illuminating the other players who might also be experiencing that pain. So for Rec Center, the context of that pain point is I moved to New York City. I had some really wonderful friends who liked to socialize by getting $70 martinis and fries. Like, I love that as much as the next girl, but I have too much energy. I need to like get my yayas out before we go and do that. So I started to join a bunch of different running groups to try and find more people like myself who wanted to socialize through moving. And I met a lot of great accountants and kindergarten teachers, and they were all lovely, but I knew that there were creative people out there that I was destined to meet through play. And this was mainly because when I moved to New York in 2021, I had a friend, Miguel, love you brother, who was always decked out in the coolest running gear, as was I, because it was more novel at that time. And we kind of looked at each other on our runs, and I was like, Miguel, like, where are the other people like us? Because I know that they exist. He's like, honestly, I don't know, but I know that they do too. So I knew that there was a demand for it. So looking at the next question, who is the key person experiencing the problem? The best place to start in answering this question is looking at yourself in the mirror. We are the key person, so just kind of start outlining like demographics, your interests, what kind of income do you make, where do you live, all of those key kind of like decorative elements help us understand who that persona is, or that literal person having this problem. So when it comes to Rec Center, it was really the creatives that I was meeting at parties, or when I was out at restaurants, like overhearing conversation of people saying they wanted to pick up running again or get back into soccer, and also through mutual friends. And we were all just having these kind of conversations. So I knew that the key person was someone who was creative in my age range, who wanted to socialize by moving their body, mind, spirit, soul. That being said, we need to now look at what solutions currently exist that are falling short for you. And we need to better understand what their offering is and where they're falling short. For Rec Center, there are several activity groups in New York City, Volo, Good Rec, Street FC. Good Rec and Street FC are really all about soccer, and then Volo is more aligned with Rec Center in that it's a home of multiple sports, but the vibe is off. It feels very corporate America. Ew. It's like blue and white, and the website isn't cute. Like, it's just bleh. So I was still struggling to find a home of all of these different activities and sports that all of these creatives were saying they wanted to do. Like chess got really big, mahjong, soccer, of course, running, cycling, the usual. So I'm like, okay, well, Volo is the closest thing because they offer multiple sports, but they're so basic and like not creative. So I still had the need of finding a home of recreational sports that was a little bit more playful. When it comes to solutions that could work better, there is a group out in Los Angeles called USOL, which is a fantastic group. There is a tried and true testament that the demand is there for a home of activities that is channeled through a singular lens, like with USOL Outdoors. Rec Center's version of that is through the lens of sports. So now that we've asked ourselves those questions, the key take-home point is, what is the opportunity? And that opportunity becomes our white space opportunity. This is really claiming where your solution to your own problem, which has caused you to want to start this business and brand, lives. So in the case of Rec Center, the white space opportunity is to create a home of recreational sports catering to creative Gen Z and millennials. So you're going to go through that same exercise before we go into our data room. So what's a data room? Essentially, you need supporting evidence that your business is actually solving a viable problem, and that needs to come from data and statistics. It should come from cultural pieces, articles, Substacks, Instagram posts, whatever. Any type of information that you can source to bolster your argument that what you're building is valuable and in demand is what your data room is for. It's the archive of all of that material. Plus, this is really valuable if you choose to seek external investment with your business down the road, because you've been aggregating all of the evidence that you need to show them that it is a valuable interest of not only their money, but their time as well as yours. When it comes to your data room, you can host this on a bunch of different platforms. My personal preference is called Arena. There's also a great plug-in feature that basically allows you to share a specific page to a specific board. You can make them private, you can have them public, you can make them collaborative. It's such an awesome resource. It looks like this. That's my go-to. But you can also have your data room exist on, Google Drive. You can have it on your computer. You can have it on an external hard drive. Wherever you naturally want to store your information is where I recommend you create your data room. Just make it easy for yourself to be able to populate it with all of the information that you need and find. Okay, so when it comes to the things that you need and find, a great jump off point is starting with the 4 strategy C's. We're going to do 3 in this section, and we're going to do 1 in the next section. The 4 strategy C's stand for culture, consumer, competition, and the 4th one is company, but this is your company, and because we're still in the research phase, we're going to dive into company, your company, in our strategy phase. Essentially, in looking at these different categories, we're able to assess the larger ecosystem, the macro environment that your business will exist within. And when it comes to sourcing information for your data room, it's best to start with culture, consumer, and competition. I personally like to start with culture because it feels like the more macro thing. Consumer and competition to me fuels culture, but it's a little bit of a chicken and the egg scenario. So start with whatever you feel most confident with in terms of what information you already have, but it doesn't really truly matter where you start. I just personally like to start with culture. It's like, what cultural trends support your unique solution to your identified pain point? In the case of Rec Center, the pandemic really sparked a bunch of people to want to take their health more seriously, engage in more sports and activities recreationally, and therefore culturally we have more people moving and shaking their bods. And this has also caused a huge rise in sports like pickleball and running and tennis, golf, that sort of thing. The next question that we're going to go into is the values. So what values like sustainability, diversity, or transparency impact consumer choices within your given industry? So for Rec Center, there is a genuine need, a requirement for a sense of like grassroots community, because it feels really organic. It doesn't feel algorithmically dictated. It just feels genuine. And it also feels genuine depending on who it comes from. Like if Nike's running group is someone that you join, it's going to be a very different experience than if you're with like the North Brooklyn running group. One is grassroots, the other is commercial. So within culture for rec center, the thing that I identified to be a key trend was this desire and demand for a grassroots feeling behind the community that was being built. Secondarily, it's about aesthetics. So we're living in a hyper visual, stimuli economy right now, where we're getting inundated with videos and pictures on TikTok, Instagram, YouTube. So there is aesthetic sensitivity culturally right now where it's got to look good. It can't just sound good. It also needs to look good in order to gain a little bit more attention and momentum and be held in a slightly higher regard than if you didn't focus on aesthetics. So the last question in culture is, how large of an opportunity is the market? This is a great question to ask when you're looking for analytics and data points. Anything numerical is going to be really helpful in answering this question. I didn't bring any into the examples for rec center, but again, I'm raising capital for rec center, so it's imperative to have statistical evidence and numbers just kind of backing up the argument. So this is the size of the fitness and wellness industry. This is the number of, Gen Z and millennials fueling that industry, so on, so forth. When you're looking at how large the opportunity is of the market, look at the macro trends of what is the current market valuation of your chosen industry, market, field, and then from there kind of boil it down as niche as possible to get facts and figures that support the size of the market that you're directly entering into. And this lathers up really nicely into our consumer segment. Who is fueling all of the cultural trends? When it comes to who is our target audience in demand of our solution, the target audience is your prime time customer. Who is your ideal person? And again, if it's yourself, there are other people like you. You are unique to yourself, of course, but like-minded folks attract like-minded folks. So the like-minded focusedness for you is going to be your target audience. This target audience is going to be the group that is most in demand for your service, product, solution. With Rec Center, we're going to get more into the weeds of our target audience in phase 2 strategy, because this research phase is really just accumulating all of the evidence that my hypothesis that creatives aged 25 to 35 are craving a solution like Rec Center. We're going to get into that next week. Essentially, the Rec Center target audience is a 27-year-old living in New York City who has a full-time job that's either a professional creative or has creative pursuits in their own personal lives. So ask yourself that same question. Again, you can always look in the mirror as a great starting point, but as you continue to collect evidence about who else would be a consumer for your products, this is where you would start. The next piggyback question is obviously, how are they fueling these cultural trends? So something interesting that I learned in my research for Rec Center was that Gen Z and millennials are the leading consumers fueling the health and wellness industries. And because they are very aesthetic sensitive, there is a lot of design demand from these consumers when it comes to the kind of products they consume, services that they use, and communities they're a part of, because aesthetics are a key driver for tribalism, the type of groups that we naturally align ourselves with. And so they are fueling a bunch of trends in the health and wellness space, but have a key focus on the grassroots community that we had talked about before, as well as it being aesthetically pleasing. Lastly, are there any emerging trends or shifts in consumer behavior that might reshape demand in the near future? So with the Rec Center audience, they're more easily persuaded to attend an event if there is a gift involved. So these are the more nuanced things that you can reference from your own personal life and dive into and explore and get evidence for. And it doesn't need to be like an exact argument. It could literally be an article in The Cut that a bunch of influencers got invited to, and everyone gets to take home a lipstick. It can be something like that. It doesn't need to be, the headline is, Gen Z and millennial creatives only attend events where they're getting shit for free. That's not at all what it needs to be. But again, your data room should just be a massive archive of anything that you can find and create an argument for it supporting your business. So be that as it may, the last of the C's that we're going to be covering in this chapter is competition. So first question, what other businesses are currently trying to solve your identified pain point? And above, we looked at this a little bit. This is a slightly more in-depth answer to that. Again, being Volo is our main competitor, it's mainly that they still host a variety of events, and they are also online. They have their own platform, and they activate in multiple US cities. However, they don't satisfy the young creatives' aesthetic demands and just kind of need for something that covers more mental sports, fringe sports, fun sports than the typical expected sports like kickball, volleyball, soccer, sort of thing. Last but not least, what gaps exist in the current market offerings and where could a new entrant potentially fit in, i.e., you boo-boo. Case of Rec Center, there's no recreational sports group offering multiple sport activities under one roof that caters to the young creative class. Volo is a little bit of an older crowd, not creatively aligned, not aesthetically inclined, and so there lies the opportunity for a new entrant, which is Rec Center. Now that we've really identified what our problem is and we've fleshed out the opportunity and you are building out your data room, it's time for you to ask yourself these questions. Throughout this course, there's going to be an associated workbook for each phase for you to dive into. And we're going through all of those different tasks that we just walked through together, but it's in a workbook form where there's plenty of questions. I add in a bunch of different comments to help you identify the solutions for that as well. And it's all in a templatized form to make your life easier. If you would like to access this workbook, all you need to do is go to my website, which I'll link down below, and you're going to click on digital goods. Once you're here, you're going to be able to go directly to the checkout page. It's $7. It is invaluable, essentially, because what you get in this is access to the Discord community where we're going to be able to chat and share resources and ask questions. You guys can ask me questions directly, and also you get access to a weekly team meeting. So each week I'm going to roll out a video for each one of these phases, and you'll have access to purchase the workbook, go through all of these exercises yourself, from Tuesday up until our team meeting on Friday at 4 p.m. Eastern Time. This is really a moment where you get to share your experience in filling out this workbook. Ask me questions on the phone, IRL. It's an hour long. I want to make sure that you guys are all being seen and heard and can support each other, again, both in this team meeting as well as offline or like off the call in the Discord channels. So you'll get access to that as well. And, you know, of course, if you can't make that time, no stress, boo-boo. You can always ask questions in the chat before, and I can make sure to answer them because those calls will be recorded and shared in the Discord as well. So buying the workbooks, you'll get access to those two things. Naturally, you can also buy the full 5 workbooks in this bundle deal as well, which is slightly discounted for you too. So yeah, guys, I'm really excited about seeing and learning all about the brands that you're trying to build and how this first phase goes. So be sure to grab that workbook, jump in the Discord community, chat it up, and I will see you not only on Friday for those of you who go through that route, but also next week as we dive into phase 2 strategy. And it's going to be very exciting because this is where we actually get to put our creative thinking caps on and lock in to build out the bones of your business. So I will catch you here next week, guys. I hope you have a lovely one. Bye.